The first time I saw a monster, I was visiting my doctor for a routine checkup. 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease. My body's immune system was destroying my nervous system. Sometimes parts of my body, especially my legs, became paralyzed and I can't move. As you can imagine, it's wonderful. Before leaving the hospital, Kato and I always stopped by to see my friend. Kato was my guardian angel, a well-trained German Shepherd service dog. As we went into Agnes's room, it seemed different, colder. The only light, the blue light of the TV, flickered across the space, its sound set very low. I found Agnes's bed empty. Abruptly, a faint, creepy siren sound, wee-woo, 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 echoed from the other side of the room. It had a random stammering and tone like someone was whistling it. That half of the place was dim, but I could see sheets crumpled on top of another hospital bed. Underneath the bed, a large silhouette stirred. Kato growled. I said, "Hello, who's there?" The eerie whistling stopped. Something slid across the floor and hit my foot. It was the TV remote. I then heard the unnerving voice of a man who tried to sound like a child. "My apologies. My apologies." He spoke in this disturbing kitty voice the whole time. His hand then crept out on the other side of the mattress as he oddly climbed out from under the bed like a spider. Obscured by shadows, I only saw his blocky silhouette and some slight details of his patient's outfit. I stuttered. "Don't be sorry. Do you know where Agnes is?" He crawled on top of the mattress and quickly hid his body under the blankets. "I don't want you to see me like this. Neither does Agnes. Can you please hand me the remote?" Kato growled. I said, "Where's Agnes?" "I'll tell you if you hand me the remote." Me, "Why did you slide it over if you want it?" "I'm not myself today." I swear I was about to quickly get out of there, but then the man reached out his arm into the light, revealing flesh that looked like acid had been dumped on it. Or maybe he was caught in a fire. Kato barked and I shushed him. I felt sad and took a step forward, offering the clicker. The man was about to take it when he violently snatched my wrist and pulled me, which wasn't hard as I'm 5'1" and 120 pounds. He giggled maliciously. "Kiss for a dead man." Kato yelped like crazy as the man yanked me closer. In the darkness, his face didn't look right. I remember thinking that my vision must have been blurry. His eyes seemed too sunken in. His nose seemed too large. All his flesh looked severely burned. And most shocking, he had sharp horns and barbs growing out of his shoulders and arms. Smaller spikes jutted out around his lips. Or were those his teeth, or just strange piercings? Kato went berserk and was trying to jump on the bed. I blocked him so he wouldn't get hurt. I yanked back from the man with all my strength, barely holding my own when nurses rushed in. 2 male nurses got the man to let go of my arm. But the man started fighting and had to be restrained. I grabbed Kato and we backed away in shock. A nurse said, "Please leave the room, miss." Me, "What's wrong with him?" Nurse, "Please just leave. You're upsetting him." Me, "Where's Agnes?" "I'm sorry, Agnes passed away 2 days ago." This was just as much of a shock to me as the monster man. The sun was setting as Kato and I stood in front of the hospital waiting for our Uber. I couldn't stop thinking about the man and Agnes. This was the first time I saw the full moon. It seemed bigger and brighter. I thought it was because it was on the horizon. The image of that man was burned into my mind, and Agnes was gone. Just like that. The week before, we had talked about me moving into her spare room. Agnes was more of a mother figure to me than my real mother ever was. Moving to a big city from a small town, you don't meet many good friends. I thought of my actual mom's last text. "You can come home whenever you like. You only have so many good years left. Why waste them out there?" She believed I couldn't make it, but I had big dreams. The Uber rolled up and took us to work. I was a valet at a busy hotel. Just kidding. I was a cashier for the valet. The irony not lost on me that I watched people all day run around, and it pained me to walk most days. The W Hollywood was a very popular hotel on Hollywood Boulevard. Kato laid underneath my cashier desk. It was fun interacting with so many different people. Most were nice, but as in all of Hwood, there were some real nasty ones. I remember a few fights breaking out that night on the driveway. Fights happened, mostly fueled by egos. Yet, more than one was rare. It was a Friday, though. Fridays were always a bit crazier. We always said Fridays were for amateurs, Saturdays for the pros. After work, I walked by a homeless encampment on my way to the subway. A man fell out of a tent. Another lunged on top of him and hit him in the face over and over with a shoe. Another person pulled them apart. I hightailed across the street to avoid the whole thing, making excuses on how crazy Hwood was. Not too much further, I felt the tingle in my legs. It came like that mostly. Suddenly, and out of the blue, Kato stiffened, sensing it. My legs gave out as the paralysis hit. This was part of my condition. I did my best to gracefully lower to the sidewalk before my legs completely gave out. My anxiety ramped up. I took deep breaths. My fear always being, what if that episode was the last one and I couldn't ever walk again? My nerves finally and completely destroyed from my brain to my legs. Kato came over and sat next to me. I loved that dog, but then his whimper turned to a low growl. Nearby, a person huddled at a closed storefront. He had a mess of clothing around him, along with 2 backpacks and an expensive-looking purse. He inhaled something as he glared at me. His face was pale and decayed. Eyes so sunken you couldn't see the whites. His beard seemed to be like fleshy seaweed. It glistened and moved on its own. He wore a dark hoodie, and the overall effect was like a Grim Reaper on crack. He smirked at my apprehension. He got up. "I got you," Kato barked. The man was super sketchy. Me. "I'm good, thank you." Him. "Want a party? I got something for your dog here." I then did something I rarely did, as I wanted to get the hell out of there. "Kato, carry." Kato crouched close and I crawled over his back. He then carried me away. The man laughed like a hyena. I wanted to kick him in his stupid face. Kato has carried me like that a few times. We must look ridiculous. As we waited for the subway, I regained my strength and I was able to walk again. I was having more of those spells. The doctor thought I was just going through a bad period. There were a couple of druggies who sat in the shadows, hiding their faces, their smoke seeping out of the darkness. I saw the woman's face for a moment. It looked like she had the nose and ears like the Egyptian god of the dead, Anubis. At this point, I thought I was seeing things. I was tired, and it was a long day. I should mention that I saw death in everyone. I couldn't help it. I was obsessed with mortality. You appreciate it more when you are constantly reminded that you are deteriorating much faster than everyone else. We finally got to my neighborhood, Koreatown. Unfortunately, I lived on the ghetto side. When I first moved to LA, I didn't know anything. K-Town was perfect because of the price and how close it was to the subway and a giant park for Kato. Usually, the street bustled with activity. Right then, you'd mistake it for a small town. So boring and tranquil. You'd never know that my hood had something like 10 different gangs living there, and 2 of the biggest anywhere. Even the abandoned apartment building next door was quiet. The place had been broken into by one of the gangs and used as a party spot. They called these kind of places bandos. The place always gave me the creeps, but thankfully, I never had to walk right by it. Kato and I entered our building and took the elevator to the top, the 5th floor. I rented a room from an exotic dancer. I had the whole place to myself most nights. Jen was a bit of a mess when she would come home, though. I was just about to tell her that I'd be moving out as Agnes planned to be out of the hospital next month. I trusted Jen, but not her many party friends. I always hid my wallet. Since we were on the top floor, we had an attic. Its opening was in my closet. I used it as my secret stash. Just to reach it, I had to push a chest over, put a step stool on it, climb on a shelf to be able to slide the attic door open, and tuck my wallet inside. After I did this, I was exhausted and went to bed. Kato nearby. I woke up to sirens ringing in the distance. Outside in the street I heard yelling, screaming, and gunshots. Lots of gunshots. Kato whined and looked at my closed bedroom door. Thud, thud. Footsteps came from the other side. I listened, hoping it was Jen. "Jen, that you?" I got no answer. Kato growled. "Jen?" Thud, thud. Something walked just on the other side of the door. I tensed, eyeballed my window. Gunshots and sirens continued. The handle on my door slightly rattled. Kato barked. Me, stop fucking around. I always kept it locked. I heard scratching on the door, like someone scraping their nails like a cat. Me, I have a gun and a killer dog. Get the fuck out of my place. I didn't have a gun but wanted one. Suddenly something slammed into the door. Then again. It tried to break into my room. Kato jumped to his feet and barked like a maniac. My war angel. The slamming stopped. I heard whispering from different voices. And giggling. I quickly took my desk chair and slid it under the door handle for more strength to hold the door shut. I picked up my cell phone and dialed 911. A voice message hummed that they were experiencing lots of calls and to please hold. I then screamed bloody murder at the top of my lungs. Kato barked like crazy. "Help me. Somebody, help me." One of the neighbors had to hear this. I quickly put on my shoes. Hysterical laughter got louder across the door. There were a few people there, not just one. A girl's voice said, "We're just fucking around. We're looking for Jen. We want a party. Where is she?" Me, "How did you get in?" "We're friends. Where is she?" I responded, "I don't know, but she's not here, so please leave." A man replied, "Do you know where she hides her shit?" The girl said, "Shut up." Jen was also a drug dealer. I called Jen on my phone. I heard the jostling of bodies like people pushing on one another. "Me, I don't. What's your name?" "I'll tell her you came by." Another guy, "We're BTS." More laughter. A man, "Fuck this." I got Jen's voicemail. I quickly texted her, "Emergency, call me." I eyed the attic door. The girl, "You got anything?" "I had painkillers." Me, "No, I don't do anything." Abruptly, the girl started screaming. I heard what sounded like two wild animals fighting, growling, clothing torn, furniture getting broken. Kato yelped. I used the noise to open the fire escape window. But I knew we couldn't go that way because at the bottom was a ladder that Kato wouldn't be able to get down. So I quickly pushed the chest to the closet. I put the step stool on top. As I called 911 again, I got the damn voice message. The fighting stopped. Bam! They slammed the door again. And again. "Tell us where her shit is." The door frame cracked. Kato snarled. I shoved Kato up on top of the chest and the footstool. He was then able to get on the top shelf. He looked back and whined. I used a selfie stick to push open the attic door. They slammed the door again. The frame was splintering. I quickly placed all my pain pills on the dresser and then climbed on the chest. I said, "Go." They slammed the door frame again. Wood splayed. Kato jumped into the attic. I climbed to the stool, made it to the shelf, and used the selfie stick to flip the stool aside to hide our escape path. But I couldn't bend my body to make the turn in. I was stuck. Kato cried. The door broke open. They kicked over the chair. I grabbed Kato's collar and gave him a look. He dragged me into the attic just as they entered my room. I pushed back the lid, leaving it a little open. The closet was dark and deep. So hard to see in. They searched for me. The largest one stayed in the doorway. One came over to the closet and peeked inside. "Hey, come on out and play. We don't bite." Its yellowed eyes didn't notice the attic door as it stepped away. One looked under the bed, checked my bathroom, and went to the open window and fire escape. "Where the fuck is she? She must have gone this way." They turned on a light and went through drawers. "Oh shit, look at this." They found my pills and passed them around. One looked in my head-to-toe mirror. He touched his face. I thought he was shaking. "I need more of these, bro. I need to just forget everything." "What do you think's gonna happen?" "We're gonna die, bro." "Shut the fuck up," said the unhuman voice of the large one. In the light, I saw them. They dressed like gangsters, big t-shirts, khakis, and chains. But each had their own unique deformations. One had a giant square jaw with a bald head. He was covered in tattoos, but his bones looked like they were breaking through his skin. Blood glistened from his open wounds. Another's skin seemed to look like a lizard's. His hair was long. He had one large eye in the middle of his forehead like a cyclops, and his mouth was incredibly wide. His neck moved like a snake. The girl looked like all the skin on her face had been peeled off. Her skinny arms looked like they were covered in sharp thorns. The last one was the scariest. He was a large, hulking mass. He spoke the least. He had large ram horns on his head. He had the face of a gorilla. A red froth of blood covered and dripped out of his eyes and mouth. One of them looked right at me. With the light on, it saw the attic door in the dark closet. I froze. "Check it." I held my breath as all four of them looked up at the attic. One of them climbed on the chest. I crawled backwards. Kato growled. I shushed him. Light from a small vent shined from a corner. I headed to it. I heard the footstool put on the chest and climbing. The attic door slid open with a sickening screech of wood. I saw the dark head peer into the attic, but I didn't think it could see us. Kato had enough and attacked, but I held him back before he could. The monster flinched and fell. I heard them laughing at him. I yanked Kato to the vent. Bam! 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 They fired bullets into the attic. I yelled, "Stop! Stop! I'll come down! I'll come down! I know where Jen's drugs are. Please just don't shoot my dog." There was no way I was going down there. I tried to loosen the screws on the vent. I could see the fire escape just outside, but the screws wouldn't budge. They stopped firing. "Me, I'm coming down. Please just don't hurt my dog. Keep him up there. You just come down. Okay, I'm coming." I quickly took off Kato's collar and used his name tag as a screwdriver. It worked and I was able to screw one off. The girl, "What are you doing? Come on." "Me, I'm coming. I got off 3 screws, but the last one was stuck. The girl, "You got 3 seconds. 1, 2. I then ripped the vent off. It slashed my forearm. I pushed Kato through. He was almost too big. 3. Kato and I quickly exited onto the fire escape. Outside, I looked down. There was no way Kato and I could descend the fire escape. We'd have to pass my window. The top of the ladder butted up against the top of the building. That was our only way. We then climbed over a short wall and traversed the roof. I remembered the one time I walked around the backside of the building and saw the other fire escape. I also knew that there was an interior stairwell that led to the roof. That door was usually locked though, but then it hit me. My legs gave out. Sometimes when I got too nervous, my adrenaline caused my wiring to glitch. I fell to the ground, unable to walk. I started hitting my legs. No. Kato stopped, bumped me with his head. I tried to climb on him, but I just didn't have the strength. Most of it used in the attic. I heard the monsters climbing onto the roof. I took some deep breaths. Kato growled. I thought, I can't lose him. I mustered all my strength. I remember repeating over and over, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this. I grabbed onto him. I pointed to where I wanted to go, and he dragged me. But I couldn't hold on and dropped back down. I turned to see the monsters right behind me. Fucking bitch, where are you going? One aimed his gun at Kato. I snatched Kato's collar. Go. Bam! I twisted my body to shield Kato. I felt a white-hot stinging in my back. They shot at us as Kato bolted to the other side. I held on as tight as I could. Kato picked up speed and sprinted behind a giant air conditioning unit. I heard bullets rip into the metal. We got to the edge and Kato stopped. I looked over to see the fire escape ladder below and an attic vent like the one on my side of the building. But we had a 5-foot drop from the roof to the landing. Getting Kato up the ladder was easier than down it. Kato whined. We had no choice. I then winced because I slipped on the blood that was coming from my side. I had been shot in the back, in my side. I turned to see them running up. I gripped Kato's collar. Trust me. He obeyed. In one quick movement, I laid down and rolled to the edge. My body twisted and pulled Kato. It's okay, I got you, I screamed. I yanked him over the ledge, but was able to swing him to the landing below. He fell on his legs, whined, and looked up at me, helpless. It was then my turn. I had no strength. I used it all. I couldn't do this. Gunshots, sirens, and screaming filled the air. Rooftops burned all around me. I thought to myself, what is going on with the world? The monsters were almost upon me. Why are you running? We want to be friends. I pushed my legs over the ledge and swung towards Kato. I came in too fast. My momentum sailed me through the air, heading straight over the fire escape and a sidewalk 60 feet below. Kato jumped and pushed. I slammed into the railing and crashed to the fire ladder next to him. Oh, it hurt. I had to have broken 2 ribs. I got up and we stumbled down the steps. I knocked on the first window and screamed, please help me. The apartment was just like mine, but pitch black inside. I moved down the fire escape to the next window. I banged on it, screamed and screamed. I saw the silhouette of a lady. She didn't move. I paused, hoping she wasn't a monster. Me, please, help. They're trying to kill us. Go away, she said. Me, 4 of them broke into my place. I live on the other side of the building. I climbed over. They're there. I pointed up at the monsters who were climbing over the ledge, looking down at me. A man joined her. She said, leave us alone. I watched the monsters jump down from the ledge to the fire escape, one landing above me. I turned to the man and woman and got down on my knees. Please help us, I beg you. We won't hurt you, please help us. They're gonna kill my dog. They eyed me. The man then stepped over and opened the window. The monsters hurtled down the fire escape steps. The man revealed a shotgun, waved his hand, and said in a heavy Spanish accent, In. 3 monsters jumped down. Two stood on the railings, one on the landing. They all had handguns. The large one stayed on the roof. One said, "Hey man, leave this shit alone. This none of your business." The man opened fire. The boom made Kato yelp. The monsters quickly fled. One went up the fire escape, the other down. But the blast found its mark and one of the monsters fell to the floor. The other two just left him. The large monster glared at the man from the roof above. The woman pointed an AR-15 rifle at him, along with her teenage daughter who also aimed an AR-15. The hurt monster rolled around in pain. This was the one that was looking in my mirror. As I eyed him, I recoiled at how gruesome he looked. His eyes were sunken and his skin was melting off his face, displaying his white skull. He had bloody spikes coming out of his whole body. Yet his eyes were alive. The man eyeballed him. Just as scared as I was. The monster gurgled, "Help me, help me. I don't know what's happening." But then it lunged at the man. Boom! The man fired a single shot that killed the monster instantly. The large monster watched from the roof. The women were steady as statues. The large monster then fled. Something grabbed my arm. It was a teen boy. He pulled me in. The others followed. The man quickly closed the window. They eyeballed us. Candles were lit throughout the apartment. The family were of Cuban descent. All four of them were heavy-set and had dark, curly black hair to contrast with their light brown skin. They were dressed in pajamas but looked intimidating with the way they wielded guns. I quickly spit out, thank you so much. I live in 5A, they broke in and..." The woman interrupted. "Do you know what's going on?" I shook my head. "It's going on all around the city. We have no help from anyone, but nobody knows why it's happening." The man spoke only Spanish, and then seemed to argue with her. The woman then led me to the bathroom. She was a nurse. The bullet that hit me went through my side and didn't seem to damage any organs. She said I was lucky as she bandaged me up. They gave Kato a bowl of water as I sat on the sofa and checked my phone. There were teddy bears all over the living room. Maybe as many as 100. I had no messages, so I started looking up YT videos, TikTok, and IG posts. One person on the street said, "Shit's getting crazy. People are fighting all over." Another person, "It's like they're fucking turning into monsters. If you see one, run." A nerd type blamed it on the moon. The moon has never been this close to Earth. What nobody is telling us is that a giant solar flare pushed the moon closer, and everyone knows that the moon messes with our emotions. There were lots of theories. I think this is only happening to the assholes, to the bad people. It's like they're becoming what they are on the inside. Another, I think if you hurt someone you become a monster. Their friend next to them. Facts. That's what happened to my brother. As I watched more videos, I heard chaos outside ramp up. An eruption of violence. Gunshots popped off like non-stop fireworks. People were yelling. Tires peeled out. Glass shattered. The world outside was getting worse, not better. I ran over to the window to see hundreds of gangsters fighting in the streets. It was an all-out gang war. The two kids were watching as well. Suddenly the woman screamed. We rushed to the kitchen to find the man sitting at the table. He looked sick. His skin was dry, cracking, and pale. Eyes sunken. Gums black. He was turning into something that didn't look healthy. The woman cried, No, this can't be happening." The kids hugged him as he pushed them away and said something like, "Peligro." Just then, there was a thunderous banging on the front door. A familiar, unhuman voice yelled, "Open the fuck up! You killed my brother? You fucking dead?" We all stared at the door, except for the man who fell to the floor convulsing. Kato barked. The woman and the kids clutched their guns. The woman eyed me and then at the man's shotgun that lay nearby. I looked at it, but really didn't want to use it. I scanned the window and fire escape beyond. I heard the clatter of footsteps coming from either below or above. They were getting louder and closer. The woman interrupted. "Do you know what's going on?" I shook my head. "It's going on all around the city. We have no help from anyone, but nobody knows why it's happening." The man spoke only Spanish, and then seemed to argue with her. The woman then led me to the bathroom. She was a nurse. The bullet that hit me went through my side and didn't seem to damage any organs. She said I was lucky as she bandaged me up. They gave Kato a bowl of water as I sat on the sofa and checked my phone. There were teddy bears all over the living room. Maybe as many as 100. I had no messages, so I started looking up YT videos, TikTok, and IG posts. One person on the street said, "Shit's getting crazy. People are fighting all over." Another person, "It's like they're fucking turning into monsters. If you see one, run." A nerd type blamed it on the moon. The moon has never been this close to Earth. What nobody is telling us is that a giant solar flare pushed the moon closer, and everyone knows that the moon messes with our emotions. There were lots of theories. I think this is only happening to the assholes, to the bad people. It's like they're becoming what they are on the inside. Another, "I think if you hurt someone, you become a monster." Their friend next to them. Facts. That's what happened to my brother. As I watched more videos, I heard chaos outside ramp up. An eruption of violence. Gunshots popped off like non-stop fireworks. People were yelling. Tires peeled out. Glass shattered. The world outside was getting worse, not better. I ran over to the window to see hundreds of gangsters fighting in the streets. It was an all-out gang war. The two kids were watching as well. Suddenly, the woman screamed. We rushed to the kitchen to find the man sitting at the table. He looked sick. His skin was dry, cracking, and pale. Eyes sunken. Gums black. He was turning into something that didn't look healthy. The woman cried, No, this can't be happening." The kids hugged him as he pushed them away and said something like, "Peligro." Just then, there was a thunderous banging on the front door. A familiar, unhuman voice yelled, "Open the fuck up! You killed my brother? You fucking dead?" We all stared at the door, except for the man who fell to the floor convulsing. Kato barked. The woman and the kids clutched their guns. The woman eyed me, and then at the man's shotgun that lay nearby. I looked at it, but really didn't want to use it. I scanned the window and fire escape beyond. I heard the clatter of footsteps coming from either below or above. They were getting louder and closer. We were trapped in on both sides, fire escape and front door. I picked up the man's shotgun, but then it dawned on me, everything the people on the videos were saying, and the man's transformation after shooting and killing the other monster. I put the gun down and said, "I think if you attack them, you become a monster too." This washed over the woman. The man was now transformed into some kind of awful thing. His brow had enlarged, his nose had fallen off, and he had tusks growing out of his mouth. He looked at the woman. Lo siento, mi amor. Tears welled up in the woman's eyes. Time seemed to stop as gunshots pounded the front door. The door burst open, and a pack of monsters exploded in. The man grabbed his shotgun and opened fire. The woman yelled, "We fight with him." Her and the kids then unloaded their guns on the monsters. The window to the fire escape exploded behind me, and monsters clambered in, immediately mowed down by the daughter and son. I fell to the ground and yelled to Kato, "Krell." We moved like crabs under the dining table. The family held their own as both parties bunkered down. Family inside behind a bar and kitchen island. Monsters outside the two doorways. It became a shootout across the large, cluttered living room. Gunshots flared above Kato and I. Furniture and teddy bears got blown apart. Their puffy insides floated through the air. I then heard this awful growling sound and saw some kind of devil dog enter the place and instantly see us. A Rottweiler on steroids. It had spikes sticking out of its hide along with abnormally large fangs. It bolted at us. Kato made this awful sound. I said, "Hurry." We crabbed to a hallway and somehow didn't get shot. I got up when I saw the first door. The demon dog was right behind us. Kato and I dived in. All I saw was a flash of teeth as the demon dog went to bite Kato. But we had already entered the room and closed the door in its face. I quickly locked it as the dog thrashed against it like a psycho. We were in a bathroom with no windows. Kato whined and I hugged him. I knew he was frustrated that he couldn't help more. I calmed him and told him everything was going to be okay, even though I didn't think so. The killer outside kept barking and clawing, trying to get in. Gunshots still popped off in the living room. I didn't think the family would last long. I thought of a plan. I guided Kato to jump on the sink, which was next to the door. I climbed up next to him and pressed him against the wall. I then stood on my knees, balancing on the sink. I hooked a big towel on a nail where a picture hung. I held up the other side of the towel so we were completely hidden behind it, at least to a dog. I had done this trick to Kato a few times. The door started to splinter. With my free hand, I reached over, unlocked the door, took a deep breath, and twisted it open. The door flung wide as the beast burst in. As it entered, I pushed Cow to jump out of the room, and I followed. The devil dog never saw us. I hit the floor but was able to snatch the door handle as I fell and slammed it shut. I then said, "Carrie, my room." Kato dragged me down the hall to a back room. I knew if this apartment was like mine, there were 2 ways to access the fire escape. I could hear from the gunshots and yelling that the family was losing. The woman was crying and shrieking like a banshee. We got to the other room and found the fire escape outside its window. An AR-15 completely unloading ripped through the air. I heard a terrible female scream, and then all went silent. I said, "Go," and we scrambled out the fire escape. There were a few dead monsters we had to crawl over, but none were outside now. We quickly fled down 2 stories. Gunshots and smoke permeated the whole area as the battle in the streets raged on, even spilling a little into the alley below. I didn't know where we would go, but then I heard the awful growling, like a bark from a grizzly bear. The demon dog was right behind us. It got out of the bathroom and was right on our heels. I saw some bushy pine trees next to the fire escape with thin branches. I grew up with these trees. Kato was in front of me. I yelled, "Jump, now." I knew he would do it. I knew he trusted me. I knew it was crazy and could kill us, but I saw no other way to survive. Kato leaped over the fire escape railing. I hit it with my pelvis and used it to flip myself over, all while hurtling down the stairs. We hit the tree about a story off the ground. I bounced off some of its slim, springy limbs. We both fell through the leafy branches, missing the wall, and hit the ground. Everything was dizzy. I looked up and saw the demon dog barking, but it wouldn't follow, as what we did seemed crazy even to this monster. Kato limped over and licked me. I thanked the heavens he was okay. I, on the other hand, was pretty broken up. The property we were on was the creepy Bando house I mentioned earlier. We crawled to it for shelter, hiding in the shadows. I eyeballed the family's apartment. The hulking monster with the large ram horns exited onto the fire escape and looked down into the yard as the monster dog kept barking at us. The hulking monster scanned the yard for a long while. I didn't think he saw us as he yelled, "I'm gonna find you, bitch!" He then moved inside, and the deviant dog followed. From the noises in the alleyway, I realized that we would have to hide inside the Bando house. So, we crawled into the building's back door. Once in, we lumbered down a decrepit hallway. I felt like I had been put through a blender. I then limped through an open arch and down a small set of stairs that led to the laundry room. I closed the door. There was a table and chairs and a rocking chair. I used a chair to lodge under the doorknob, locking us in. But then, I used my last bit of strength to move a dryer over. Kato helped me, and we pushed it with all our might behind the chair. We then moved the washer behind the dryer as extra support and put the table behind the dryer. It created one continuous support that butted up against a wall. I then flopped on the rocking chair. They always soothed me when I was a kid, the peaceful swaying back and forth. I had Kato jump on my lap, and we rocked back and forth and felt safe for a moment. The guilt hit me about the family. It was all my fault that they died. Back and forth. Back and forth we rocked there, waiting, hoping the monsters wouldn't find us.